Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. It's Tuesday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Rosado?
Here.
Atak? Stark? Here. Chancet?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Salvati?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
O'Brien? Callahan?
Here.
Meitzler? Here. Millay? Ewer?
Here.
Cerrone? And McFadden?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Next item is items 2, which is items to be removed, added, or changed. We do have a few changes and deletions tonight. We want to take item number 9 and move that up to right behind matters from the public, so that'll become item number 4. Then we'll change all the numbers as we move our way on down. Item number 12 and 13 are going to be removed and put on the June 12th agenda. And that's all I have. Do you have anything else, Laura?
No.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay, could I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to go on then to matters from the public for items that are not on the agenda. So if you have something you wish to talk to us about that is not on the agenda, please get up and give us your name. And the table is yours. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on then to item number, per the revision, item number 4, which is resolution 18-66-R, authorizing the mayor to execute a license agreement with the Fox Valley Patriotic Organization. Alderman Ataker.
Yes, I'd like to turn that over to Laura at this moment because she sent the memo and I think she's well versed on the topic.
Okay, the Fox Valley Patriotic Organization is sponsoring the creation of a Flag Day monument, which will commemorate Flag Day and Dr. Segrand, who is credited with petitioning President Woodrow Wilson for the creation of a Flag Day holiday. It's expected that the monument will become a prominent feature of our downtown, attracting visitors not only locally, but regionally and nationwide. The Fox Valley Patriotic Organization has already garnered the support of a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient and has significant financial commitments as well. We previously agreed to provide a site for the memorial right outside of City Hall here, just north of the west side parking lot and east of the Peg Bond Center. And staff was directed to negotiate a license agreement memorializing that site, as well as providing for the perpetual maintenance and repair of the monuments. And so in your packet is a copy of the license agreement. I would point to some of the features, being that before a permit may be issued for the construction of the Flag Day monument, the Patriotic Organization will provide the city a statement showing that it's raised substantially enough money to construct the monument and that it has established an endowment fund at the Community Foundation of Fox River Valley or other community foundation. And then within 90 days of all items after the monument has been completed and a dedication of the monument has taken place, the Patriotic Organization will provide proof to the city of Batavia that the endowment fund has a minimum endowment. The version of the license agreement that was part of your packet showed the minimum endowment at $200,000, but the Patriotic Organization has asked that that endowment be $150,000. $150,000 in an endowment fund, 5% of that amount per year can be used for the upkeep and maintenance of the monument, and that should be sufficient. Something else to think about is should there be any damage to it, the other things that would be covered by that 5% every year would be insurance for the monument. And I checked with Peggy Colby, our finance director, about who should be responsible for the insurance of the monument. And she said that as the property owners, the city should be the one to procure the insurance for the monument, but the cost of that can be borne by the endowment. And it is expected that that would cost about $450 per year. Does anybody have any questions regarding the license agreement?
Dan?
I just have one. Is 5% enough from the endowment to cover all costs, and will that fund be replenished through donations, or are we thinking that it's going to be a static fund?
My name is Justin Smitherman. I'm a board member with the Fox Valley Patriotic Organization. Our minimum level is 150, but I think we're going to target, we should hit over 200,000, so we should generate over 10,000 annually to generate from that. A lot of the ground and upkeep, a lot of that's going to be donated for the maintenance of the property, so that cost will be rather minimal. We do plan on obviously having other fundraising efforts to generate more money for the repair, but we don't foresee any major issues with having enough money to provide the upkeep and repair to the monument as it is right now.
I just want to make sure it was ongoing contributions because banks are not paying 5% yet. So.
No, we have it actually with the, not with a bank, but through a foundation.
Anybody else? Okay, can we get a motion then to recommend the City Council Resolution 18-66-R authorizing the mayor to execute a licensing agreement with the Fox Valley Patriotic Organization?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Janzik, second by Salvati. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. So that'll go to the next City Council meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on then to what is now item number 5, which is Ordinance 18-33, grant of variance for MetroNet to be located at 605 East Fabian Parkway. MetroNet is the applicant. Alderman Stark, are you going to take that? But before you do, did we check on that address? The mayor brought that up last night.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
It should be 602 East Fabian Parkway. It's a typo that carried out through the whole memo, so it is 602.
602. So this is Ordinance 1833, grant of variances for MetroNet, and 1834, conditional use permit for a utility facility in the general commercial district at 602 East Fabian Parkway. And Metro FiberNet LLC is the applicant. And the 28-page memo includes the draft ordinances that approve the development of a utility structure for MetroNet to construct a shed for fiber optic utility equipment as an accessory structure on the property at 602 East Fabian Parkway. This property is zoned general commercial, which allows utility facility as a conditional use. Variances are necessary to allow the proposed setbacks and to allow the establishment of an accessory structure prior to the development of the remainder of the parcel. This Ordinance 1833 grants the variances necessary to construct the proposed structure. Ordinance 1834 gives a conditional use for the proposed use of the portion of the property for utility purposes. And the background, City Council approved a franchise agreement with MetroNet in August of 2017, and they began to build out their network. They require an installation of a utility structure to connect the network to the internet. And the applicant worked with staff on finding a location that suits their purposes. This property is owned by Dan Nagel and is undeveloped, and the city rezoned the property from B1 and neighborhood commercial under the previous zoning code to general commercial district. And the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals conducted public hearings for the requested variances and conditional use on May 2nd, 2018. One utility structure would be constructed immediately with plans depicting one additional structure for future expansion. It's surrounded by a 7-foot tall solid wood foot fence. Solid wood foot fence?
A solid wood fence, yes.
Solid wood.
So a board-on-board fence, basically.
Is there an extra word in there? Solid wood foot fence.
So 7-foot solid wood fence. There's a
extra foot.
Extra foot.
Okay. Plans depict landscape screening along the west and north fence lines to provide screening from adjoining residential and future commercial uses. Variances are necessary to allow a narrower transitional side building setback along the west property line, consistent with previously permitted setbacks for the property and provided landscape buffer setbacks to the south. Staff does believe it's appropriate to consider the variance to allow establishment of an accessory structure prior to the principal structure in this instance due to the community need, and that the site is designed in a manner to minimize impact for future development of the remaining site for commercial use. So the Zoning Board of Appeals had their public hearing. No members of the public spoke during the public hearing. Attorney Dan Kramer, representing the applicant and owner, provided the Commission and Board of Appeals an overview of the issues with the site and expected operations. There will be no regular employees, rather technicians may visit the site on an as-needed basis to conduct repairs and maintenance of equipment within the structure. So, Drew, this is very similar to what AT&T does, right?
It's similar to a lot of other utilities like AT&T. AT&T, I think, typically has kind of the boxes in the right-of-way, so this is a little bit different, but essentially it's kind of like a cell tower facility has that shed that has all of the computer equipment that takes the antenna data. Instead of going up to an antenna, it's going below the ground into the fiber optic cables.
Okay. And so the alternatives as provided by staff are the pros. The approval would allow the development facility for the implementation of the MetroNet fiber optic utility. Proposed structure would be well screened and as conditioned should not impact adjoining uses. Cons, approval would allow an accessory use without the establishment of a principal structure. So this is like a garage without a house.
Right.
Not approving the requested actions would delay implementation of a new communication service for residents. Budget impact, other than the collection of permit fees, there's no impact. Staff impact, staff time would be used to complete the entitlement, permitting, and inspection process. The timeline for this, if we pass this on to City Council, the final action would be taken June 4th. And staff does recommend Ordinance 1833 and 1834. And this did come out of the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals with a positive recommendation. Does anyone have any questions about this project? Oh, that was easy. Would someone like to make a motion? Oh, Alan, you had a question?
I was just going to say, I like the fact that it's more into a commercial neighborhood than trying to bury it somewhere in a residential neighborhood, trying to find a spot where they could squeeze something like this into a residential neighborhood.
Drew, I can't remember. MetroNet, will it be available to houses within town? Is it just in the business community? Who will be able to take advantage of MetroNet services? I mean, I know they're running fiber all over town.
Right. The ultimate build-out would have areas, or it would serve basically all of, both the residential and the commercial and industrial areas of town. The applicant's here, and they can probably answer that in better detail, but essentially the plan would be that, they would be servicing basically all areas of the community at some point.
Okay, great. Did the applicant want to come up and say anything? If you'd state your name for the record, please, that'd be great.
Thank you. My name is Dan Kramer. I'm the attorney representing the applicant and also the Nagel family that owns the property. I'd be happy to talk, but there's a time for lawyers to shut up. If there's any technical questions, I do have staff people here that they could answer them way better than I. As we told the Plan Commission, where you approved the Nagel VWR zoning on the other side that didn't have good access for retail, we're hoping that when they see this hut go in and some activities out there, this is zoned for commercial, that you get some retail or good office in there and it generates some. And we also informed the Plan Commission just south of Orion, that 4-acre parcel just got closed and somebody's going to come in with a large industrial building. So lots happening out in the Nagel property all of a sudden after 18 years.
Great.
But if you have technical questions, I have folks here.
Yeah, I just want to know how soon I can get faster internet for less money.
Well, they told me that they just did one on Silver Glen Road up off of Randall, and they had it totally operational in 9 days.
Wow.
So if you approve June 4th, they're going to be out there working very, very quick.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Anyone have any
Yes,
questions?
sir, Mr.
Dave?
Dan, do you have any idea, or maybe your client does, when can the residents expect to see service?
Chris or Ray, can you?
I've been asked quite a few times, and I just don't have an answer for them.
You have to come up to the
Come on up
podium,
and
please.
give your name if you would, Ray.
My name is Ray Curtis. I'm a project manager for MetroNet. Our intent is to have the Batavia area built out by the end of September of 2019.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
The company's told me I have to do it.
Great. That's
Any
good.
other questions?
No, that's good news.
Like-
Thank you. A lot of people
Yeah.
ask, oh, Mark?
I guess my question is, will people, you're waiting for everything to be built out before it's lit up, or is this building going to be where you guys can start turning people on that you've already run wire to?
As soon as this is operational and the transport is to it, then we will start feeding out of it in one direction. Right now, that's going to be mainly along the Kirk Road corridor, and then it'll loop around and catch the rest of the city as we get our permits from ComEd and the other municipalities.
Okay.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Your staff's been great.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. So, would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion to send ordinance 1833, grant of variances for MetroMet to council by Wolf, second by Salvati. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recused.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Elliot.
Okay, then we'll go on to ordinance 18-34.
Someone like to make a motion on 1834?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Saron, second by, was it you? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recused.
Recused.
Okay,
Meitzler was
because we've got one that's recused, I think we have to put it on
We
the
do.
regular agenda.
That's on regular agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Which it gives us a good opportunity to tell people what to expect.
Yeah.
Since so many people wonder why, lawns are being dug up and stuff like that. So I think it's a great opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, next item is ordinance 18-35, amending the land use map for the comprehensive plan of the city of Batavia for 1305 through 1355 South River Street. Bob Hanson, Windmill City Entertainment, is the applicant. Alderman Stark.
Okay, great. Loading, okay. So the three draft ordinances we're dealing with on this project, 1835, 1836, 1837, provide the necessary approvals to allow for the proposed expansion of Funway on South River Street. And Bob Hanson has provided plans that would relocate and add a parking along South River Street and add a go-kart track on the property to the south. A small building addition is proposed to provide storage on site. An expanded mini golf attraction would be added to the rear of the site where parking is proposed to be relocated. And so the first thing we need to do to be able to start the approval process is to amend the comprehensive plan land use map designation for the property and to align the acquired property to the existing site. The second action is to rezone the acquired property to be general commercial district consistent with the main Funway facility zoning, leaving the existing South River Street Gateway overlay district intact and applying a plan development overlay to all the property. The plan development would permit certain modifications to the zoning code for the proposed use and conditions on the existing site. And there also are conditions of approval. And of course, as most people know, Funway has long been a regional attraction along the Fox River. In 2004, the City Council approved a design review ordinance to permit construction of the bowling alley addition. In 2015, Mr. Hanson acquired the former Producers Chemical property at 1335 South River, and that building is currently being demolished to prepare for the proposed site improvements. The comprehensive plan land use amendment would reclassify the South River Street property from light industrial to general commercial. The zoning map amendment would reclassify the base zoning district for the 1355 River Street property from light industrial to general commercial district. And additionally, it would place both properties into one planned development district. The zoning code permits for unique developments, grant modifications for relief from zoning code for certain front and side perimeter landscape requirements to allow for the proposed parking areas. There is a request for modification from the parking requirements necessary for the proposed improvements. And there is more detail. And this is still loading. The blue bar is almost across.
We had MetroNet, this
Yeah, I was going to say, once we get MetroNet.
Yeah, if we had MetroNet, I wouldn't have this problem, yeah. Or a better wireless system in the building.
Did,
Like
Howard Chasen tell you about the cabling project that's going on here this fall?
And now I have nothing, Drew, so
Okay,
you can take it from here.
Pick it up.
Thanks.
But essentially, there's a number of modifications that would be requested, and it's kind of in recognition of the fact that the site, we're working with an existing site, the existing improvements, and trying to accommodate kind of a unique use with the rest of the, in comparison to what is typically regulated under the zoning code. We don't typically have specifics about go-kart regulations. So there's some provisions about taller fences to provide screening. There is some relief for parking requested with the proposal due to the fact that there is a small building addition that generates parking, but it's mostly for storage in this case. And we do have in the zoning code certain requirements for additional parking for certain types of entertainment uses. So the Planning Commission was okay with those modifications. The applicant did present some new renderings of the building. There was a change in some of the materials being used, and the Planning Commission found those changes, among the others, favorable. They did discuss the proposed updates to the ground sign on the site, and the applicant did note that they had showed two different sign types, and they did note that they prefer the applicant prefers the ground sign type. And after the discussion, the Plan Commission also was in favor of that. That particular sign does not require any sort of zoning relief to accomplish either. So, so overall, the Plan Commission was in favor of all the changes. So they did recommend in favor of the land use change 6-0 to go to general commercial from light industrial. They recommended with the same vote in favor of the plan development and of the design review, which is what ends with them. The conditions are reflected in the plan development ordinance. The conditional use ordinance refers back to that because that's just kind of where the list of all the requirements and modifications are. So that's what's in front of you tonight.
Thank you. And I understand that I see some signboards, so we must have some presentation material.
The applicant is available to kind of do a brief presentation and answer questions.
Okay, great. And it's finally up on my laptop, so if you could state your name for the record, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Green with Engineering Resource Associates, and I represent the applicant, Bob Hansen from Funway Entertainment. Staff and yourself included did a good job at the basics in terms of the presentation, but I want to point you to a couple of the highlights of the project. We'll be improving some traffic flow along the front of the property. There's a proposed parking lot expansion that will add approximately 28 new parking stalls. We're going to close one of the 3 existing curb cuts along the current Funway frontage. It'll actually allow us to infill about 4 or 5 parking stalls. We'll be adding several landscape islands to the bookends of the existing front parking lot. And we'll also be bringing the rear parking lot up to city code compliance with the addition of some curbing, some improved enhanced drainage, and also some landscaping. There are a couple of deviations from the landscape plan, but in all, the project will have the required amount of landscape species. There'll be a fair amount of green space scattered throughout the attractions in the rear of the property. The go-kart track and the mini golf areas will have all of the required plantings and green space that otherwise does not fit within our proposed parking lot expansion. There are some deviations from some of the parking and fence regulations, but we feel that all in all, the improvements are an improvement to the facility, and then some of the fences around the perimeter actually provide some good screening for the guests of this facility. With me here tonight is Doug from Williams Architects, and he's going to walk through some of the architectural features. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Doug Holzrichter with Williams Architects. And as previously mentioned, there's a small building addition, which is a very minor piece of the entire project. And that building addition is to the south side of the existing building. It's a simple, I don't know if we can pull up the renderings or not. Should I try to do that? Or? Oh, there they are. Okay. So we are proposing a simple form to complement the existing building. The existing building is precast concrete, and this addition will be constructed with insulated metal panels, which will complement the precast concrete. In this case, with the scale of the project and the time schedule that we're on, precast is really not a viable material in this case, so the insulated metal panels will be a good complement, and they're extremely energy efficient. We'll also introduce some color on the elevations to liven it up a little bit, but we wanted to keep it simple so that we really didn't attract attention from the main entrance to the facility. So that's about all I need to say tonight, but any questions I'd be happy to address.
Anyone have any questions? Mark?
Just a question in general. I don't know who would answer this, but where the bike path kind of cuts through there, is there anything, right now it's not a big deal because most people don't park all the way back there, but I imagine now that one of the parking lots is going to be removed, that could be an issue. I just don't know if any consideration has been taken to that.
There will be, as you know, it's kind of the bike path bypass where the official path goes around the backside.
For when I'm too lazy to run up that hill.
Exactly, right. Or when you're racing your kids to North Aurora Dam and you take the shortcut, right? But all kidding aside, yeah, we're working with the Forest Preserve District because they have jurisdiction there. Okay. And in consideration that we will be curbing the parking lot and there might be some additional increased traffic flow back there, we want to keep it safe as well. Okay. So we're going to work with the Forest Preserve and working out a plan that makes most sense.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, Dave?
So what is the timeline? What is the schedule?
We want to start tomorrow. Actually, some of the work has begun, some of the site preparation, some of the demolition on the producer's chemical building. But there's going to be a phased approach to the construction. Of course, the proposed mini golf in the rear of the site is going to displace about 40 or 50 parking stalls. So what's on the front burner for this coming month or two is actually to get to new parking expansion in the front constructed, fully constructed by the middle to end of the summer, so that then some work on the rear attractions can begin, and there's still adequate parking in the front.
Anyone else have any questions? Will any of the current attractions be closed during construction, or will the batting cages, will everything still be running as normal?
There may be some temporary closures, but we'll try and keep it running as best as possible, 90 to 100%.
Great, Dave?
So since we are on TV and since Mr. Hanson and the crew are here, would they like to tell us a little bit more about what type of go-karting attraction they're going to be doing? How much it costs, what color are the carts, you know, things like that. I just want to know how fast they can go.
Legally. Well, if you'd like to start with the go-kart track, put that back up, if you might.
Arrow down.
This type of track in the industry is described as a family road course track, where there's a lot of turns, very few straightaways. Straightaways are where typically people like to bump and crash and do everything else we don't like. So with the turns and a little bit of banking, it adds a little more excitement to this type of track than what we presently have. The track in back, yeah, Alan's been thrown off plenty of times. Gotcha.
Only one.
The track in back, we're going to leave that as a kiddie track. We have new go-karts coming in that are designed for 7 to 10-year-olds, which will be on the old track, which will be perfect for that age group. And the new track will be a new style car. It's a lower profile car. It's a little racier looking. It really won't go a whole lot faster, but it'll feel faster because of all the turns and everything. So it'll be exciting. There'll be a lap timer out there so you can challenge your buddies against time, not just position. So that's kind of a cool feature. The miniature golf course, we're in the final stages of the design on that right now. We're adding some water features and things which are making it a little more complicated. There'll be some pools around some of the holes. It will be, 9 of the holes will be ADA accessible. So that's a nice feature that we'll have. That's what we did in the bowling center too. That's a big following for us right now. And let's see, the area right behind the bowling door entrance, we're going to have a little outdoor patio with some tables and umbrellas and things. And then let's see, we have a little bit of space available behind the bumper boats for maybe something down the road, something small, another small kiddie attraction of some type back there.
Oh, Anyone have any questions, comments? Thank you for your investment in this project. And Pelchois. So, now that I have this all in front of me, the first thing that we need to take action on is the Ordinance 1835, amending the land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Batavia. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Jansen, second by Rosato. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain from these.
Okay.
So just so.
Okay. Opposed? So we have everyone in favor and one abstention with Salvati. Okay. Ordinance 1836, amending the official zoning map for general commercial development with a planned development in South River Gateway Overlay District.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Cerrone, second by Meitzler. All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Salvati. Ordinance 1837, conditional use permit for an entertainment and recreation indoor, outdoor, large-scale use in general commercial district at 1335 through 1355 South River Street.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Cerrone, second by Meitzler. Oh, McFadden, don't switch up on me like that. All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Savati.
Okay, so that'll be on the next city council meeting, right, Drew?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item is ordinance 18-30, requesting transfer of certain parcels from the Batavia Park District. Alderman Stark.
Got it. So 1830 and 1859 are authorized transfer of property to the Park District, or from the Park District to us, and then transfer of property from us to the Park District. So the city of Batavia and the Park District have been working on clarifying the boundaries of the land ownership around City Hall and the Pentagon Center. And if you look at the map, it has been kind of hodgepodgey in terms of how it was. So Scott has been working on the Island Avenue roadway vacation recently, and that was part of the declaration. And then several land swaps are being proposed in the vicinity that puts land in the proper jurisdiction. In particular, it puts the land where the Peg Bond Center, playground, and certain trails into district ownership. And at the same time, the city gets the access drive to River Ring, as well as a larger lot area surrounding the City Hall building. So the attached ordinances cause the city to request transfer of district properties to the city, and the resolution authorizes transfer of certain properties from the city to the district, and also authorizes an intergovernmental agreement that memorializes the transfer. The district would be passing a similar ordinance and resolution at the same time to request the land swaps. After these have been passed by both the city and the Park District, we would forward a plat of subdivision to the Plan Commission for recommendation, and once this is forwarded and approved by the City Council, the land swap will be complete. So our alternatives, so the city does have utilities running through the area, so we will reserve an easement over the lots for access and maintenance of the utilities. So the alternatives are to approve the ordinances or not approve the ordinances. And the pros for approving it would allow the land swap to proceed, in the several parcels that have been in the city and Park District and should be owned by the other entity will be swapped. And it will clarify the land boundaries much more distinctly. And it also reduces the city's liability, as we own a number of parcels that have been actively managed by the Park District. And so the cons, we're going to lose some control over the areas that are conveyed over to the Park District. Budget impact, the survey and plat of the area costs $5,510, and additional fees for recording will be incurred, and that's approximately $100, and these amounts are going to be split with the Park District. There's no additional staffing impact other than what they've done so far. There's not a specific timeline, but the ordinance and resolution need to be approved and considered by the Plan Commission and come back to us before this can all happen. So staff recommends that we move forward with these two ordinances. Does anyone have any questions? Scott has a slide up on the screen, and we also have them in our packet that shows exactly what land is being conveyed. No questions, Dave?
So what needs to go back to Plan Commission?
Well, essentially, it's a three-step process. We did the one with the vacation of the right-of-way first, so that was the first step. This is the second step, where we passed an ordinance asking for the property and a resolution conveying the property, or authorizing the conveyance. Park District also passes an ordinance and a resolution to do the exact same thing. So once we have passed ours and we've passed passed theirs, we can then do the actual conveyance by the plat of subdivision, which is this other exhibit here. So this is what would go to the Plan Commission, and then once that's approved by the City Council, that would then, and recorded, it would effectuate the change in ownership. So the Park District would, on this, get lots 2 and 3, and the city would get lot 1.
Park District, of course, is all good with this?
They are, yes.
I shouldn't say of course. I should just say.
They are, yes. They are going to be passing the same ordinances. I don't know exact date, but they will be passing them as well.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Someone like to make a motion to send Ordinance 1830 requesting transfer of certain parcels from the Batavia Park District to City Council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Meitzler, second by Ewer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And then Resolution 1859R authorizing the transfer of property to the Batavia Park District?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by McFadden, second by Meitzler. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion also carries. And so now you'll send this on over to the Park District with our...
Well, it says to go to City Council, obviously,
Oh,
but
that's
after
right.
that, we will send them to each other.
Okay. Great.
Okay, the next item is ordinance 18-38, annexing and zoning 511 Pine Street. Alderman Stark.
Got it. Pine Street. The ordinances are in order. There it is. Okay. Loading. These must be huge. They take a very long time to load.
Some of them are, yes.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is the annexation of property at 511 Pine Street. And this is one of the properties that has one of our older utility agreements. And a prior property owner signed an agreement in exchange for the connection to city water and sewer in 1989 and later connected to the city water in 1998. The original agreement required annexation once the property was contiguous, and the owner at that time was proceeding through the annexation process until the property is contiguous. However, no final action was ever taken on the property at that time for unknown reasons. The current property owner, Matthew Weber, has submitted a petition to annex as part of the agreement at the request of our staff. As mentioned, the property has city water and service already. Electric utility lines are located in the Pine Street right-of-way, but the prior agreement does not require connection with any specific time. The agreement also does not require any specific payment of fees other than utility connection fees and payment of their fair share of sidewalk improvements if they occur in the future. The plat of annexation was already prepared for this property as part of the original petition. As we had agreed with other annexations, the city would handle all the paperwork necessary to complete the annexation. The property will be zoned R0 upon annexation and may be rezoned to R1L sometime in the future. The property would be in Ward 6 after annexation. The City Council will need to pass the attached ordinance in order to annex the property into the city limits. So, of course, we have two alternatives: either annex it or do not annex it. The pros: annexing the property will allow the property owners to connect to future utility service and reduce the size of the unincorporated island. The city will realize an increase in property taxes as well as head taxes after the 2020 census. The city already maintains Pine Street in front of this property. There are no cons with the proposal. The recording cost will be approximately $50. That's our budget impact, and there's no impact on staffing. And then if the timeline, if this is passed by City Council, the annexation will be effective upon recording the ordinance. So, questions?
This is just one of a few that you're trying to get taken care of in that area, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few, but this is one of the last ones that's, actually submitted a voluntary petition, and, once we've exhausted all those, we'll be coming back to you for some additional discussion on the rest of the areas, but this one was a voluntary one under a prior utility agreement.
Any other questions? Okay. So, would someone like to make a motion to send ordinance 1838 annexing 511 Pine Street to City Council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thalen Atak and second by Meitzler. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This motion carries. On to City Council.
Okay, so per the change in the agenda, the next two items have been pushed off until the June 12th meeting. So the next item then is going to be discussion, I'm sorry, I missed that. That was two items before that. So the next item is going to be the discussion on the 1 Washington Place State Street design options. Alderman Stark.
Got it. Okay. And Gary Holm is presenting this. So the revised redevelopment agreement for 1 Washington Place the project specifies the State Street between North River Street and Washington Street be partially reconstructed as part of the improvements. The RDA requires the development to install new curb and gutter, public sidewalks, and streetscape improvements along the south right-of-way frontage of the property site. The remainder of street pavement is required to be milled and resurfaced. Staff has been working to develop different design options for State Street. And so the existing right-of-way is 60 feet wide. And so the 1 Washington Place development has tentatively agreed to grant additional easements on the south side for public sidewalk if needed, and staff will pursue additional right-of-way and easements. So, Gary, you have the design option, so just have at it.
Sure. And the last sentence you were just finishing, we approached this with the notion that the properties on the north side of the road may redevelop one day. It's likely that being in the downtown that may happen in the next, 10, 20, 30 years. They are the Domino's and the Tusk Tie and the Quonset Hut, which is the martial arts place. We just went through that. Those are the requirements from the RDA. The existing conditions, State Street today functions, but it doesn't function very well, and it's easier to go to the aerial photograph. The lanes are very narrow, and if you look in the aerial photograph, it tells the story just by picture here. This vehicle and this vehicle, they're not sticking out in back, but their fronts are encroaching onto the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. This person is conscious and didn't pull on the sidewalk, but his back is sticking out into the road. And you can't see from a still photo, but all of these vehicles, when they back out, don't have enough room to back out and stay in this lane. So there's really not enough room in these angled spaces to accommodate vehicle traffic. I don't know the story behind how the angled spaces came to be, but they really probably should never have been there from a depth standpoint. And of course, we have the parallel parking on the south side today, and then I know these two were added with the River Street project. That I do remember. We reworked this area here and then into the two parallel spaces there. Oops. Again, another thing we did when we approached this was to consider the improvements along the south side or the south half of the roadway to be permanent. We didn't want to have to go back and redo those at some point in time in the future. Whereas on the north side, we recognize that when those properties redevelop, we probably will have to go back in there and do something at that point in time. One of the key things that we've been pushing for the last several years, 10-foot wide sidewalks and streetscape elements in the downtown area. And again, from an engineering standpoint, compliance with established roadway and parking design criteria to address the issues I just went through. Also, trying to strike that balance between providing a maximum number of parking spaces versus equality to design. And finally, and you guys have read our recommendations, so you know where I'm headed with this, the general public doesn't like parallel spaces. In fact, they've gone so far as to have manufacturers now design cars so you press a button and your car backs into a parallel space by itself, because people don't know how to parallel park. It makes it, none of us grow up in the city anymore, so generally undesirable by the public, and the hill, the steep grade on this particular case also adds to that difficulty for exiting and parking. So we went through 3 design options. The first one basically, I'm going to jump to the picture. The first one basically replicates what we have out there today. It does correct the depth issue on the north side with the angled spaces, but it still leaves rather narrow lanes. And if you back out of those angled spaces, you will encroach into what would be the other lane, the opposing lane. The positive for this, and the reason why we felt we needed to include it, was the fact that it does retain parallel parking on the south side, therefore maximizing the number of spaces out there. It does allow then for concrete sidewalk up against the building, and we felt that that's maybe not the best option because it puts pedestrians as close to the building and therefore in conflict with vehicles entering and exiting the garage. And then also I want to point out, it's a consideration on all of these options. The westernmost, or what will be the first level parking garage, the ramp for that garage actually extends outward from the building. It extends outward, I believe, a dimension of like 6 feet. So the first 6 feet out from the building is not flat sidewalk, if you will. It's still part of the ramp. So that would definitely encroach into a design where the sidewalk is pushed up next to the building. Again, we felt we had to do this option just to show you kind of we can do what's existing out there today, but we don't recommend this. And on all of these, I'm showing you this basically be striping at this point, not curb and gutter, because again, there's no obligation to construct curb and gutter on this side of the street. I kind of went through the pros and cons. Design option 2, Design option 2 allows for the same depth of the angled spaces, so it's sufficient depth for the angled spaces, but it allows now for a wider westbound through lane so that those vehicles can back out and not encroach into the eastbound through lane. And the reason why you're able to gain that extra space is because we've eliminated the parallel parking. And in this option, we chose to place the sidewalk up next to the building, but then put landscaping out. So this would be very similar in streetscape design to what we did on Wilson Street, where we had the landscape buffers here right out next to the roadway. Downside, again, pedestrians closer to the building and lack of parallel parking. Finally, design option 3. Same depth with the angled parking, so we've addressed that issue. Wider through lane going westbound, and we've basically flipped and allowed for foundation plantings. And by moving that sidewalk out, the downside is it's a carriage walk now, which we try to avoid. But in the downtown area, carriage walks aren't as big of a deal. We'll probably, in all likelihood, be doing snow operations out here anyways. Pushing that sidewalk out helps that ramp issue with the first floor ramp. And there is still sufficient space here for, now remember this will be also the north side of the building, so he's going to have to do some sort of shade-loving plantings, but there will be room here for plantings up and adjacent to the building that would be part of the homeowners association, the building to maintain. So it's another advantage to this plan. So.
Gary, one other thing that we were thinking of is putting the sidewalk out toward the street as well, gave those exiting the parking garage
Correct.
Just that much more time for there to be visibility between that car exiting and the pedestrian coming down the sidewalk.
And these are 8 to 10 foot wide sidewalks, so I mean we are achieving that wider sidewalk on all these options. We just kept a 5 foot sidewalk. In fact, we kept the 5 foot sidewalk, the existing sidewalk on the north side. Which will ultimately one day be reconstructed, hopefully.
Okay.
So I just had the pictures at the end in case you guys want to talk about it, and we can look at the pictures of the various options.
The pictures are the best part of it, honestly. Yeah. The narrative is, the narrative is great, but it's a lot easier to be able to look at the pictures and see it. It's a shame you can't look at all 3 of them at one time.
I wrote the narrative, and that's just okay, but the pictures were done by engineering, and of course they're the great part.
Some of us are more visual thinkers.
Yeah, I know.
How many total parking places do we lose? It looks like it's about 5.
Parallel, we had gotten down to about 7, realistically about 7 parallel spaces on that, because you couldn't have some of the ones that the developer was originally showing adjacent to these driveways. So I think realistically there would be about 7 spaces parallel that we'd be losing.
I have one of those cars that parallel parks itself. I refuse to use it. It whips you back into a parking place, and it's scarier than attempting to hit other cars. So I'm sure there's questions. Questions? Dave?
If you go with option 3, how wide is the landscaping up against the building?
About 3.5 to 4 feet.
That's going to be tough to get anything to grow in there, isn't it, being on the north side and that narrow?
And shady. So you're going to have a shade garden basically through there. Probably lower plants. You're not going to get really things tall. You can get some greenery though.
That's the only thing that concerns me is I'm looking at the size of the building that's going to be there and to not be able to put any type of trees or anything like that that can grow and enhance the area.
I agree. And even, oh boy, sorry, I'll go back to apologize. Even these options where you push that landscaping out adjacent to the road, if you're talking a 5 or 6 story building, the whole road's going to be in shade.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a lot of difference.
Are there any trees there now, Gary?
I'm trying to remember on the south side there aren't. Not any formal parkway trees because it's kind of a scraggly hill right now.
And would you be thinking about things like the planters that are on River Street, or would you be thinking actually things in the ground?
So like under option 3, which is what staff was recommending, those would be ground plantings. I mean, those wouldn't be a planter. They'd be ground plantings that would be, again, shade tolerant. I'm not an expert in.
You're not Scott?
I'm not an expert in plants. Could be a hosta garden.
There you go. Anybody else have questions about this? Mark?
Not really a question, it's more a comment. I mean, I just look at it from the safety aspect that option 3 seems to be the smartest choice. Because, in fact, I was just downtown yesterday, and I'm sure Marty sees this all the time. There's plenty of garages that come right out on the sidewalk, and you walk up there and you kind of give a peek, and it's just the best way to go.
I don't believe the developer had a preference. I think he's fine with all 3 of them. Again, staff is recommending option 3, I should say.
Other comments, questions?
Anybody from the public?
Oh, Nick?
Yeah, I just, when we did all the parking analysis for the whole project, these lost spots were not calculated.
They were not part of what we showed you as
additional. And existing today, there's 11 parallel parking spots on the south side of this street? Is that what you,
No.
Put me on the spot, but let me see if it shows it in this
There it
picture.
is.
I don't have that good an eyesight.
3, I think there's 10.
Roughly 10 would be my guess, yeah. Yeah, you're in the ballpark, yeah.
So we're losing an initial 10 spots downtown.
And you're going to lose a couple on the other side of the street when you put in the...
Right, it seems like there's 12 new ones. What is on the north side existing? Those 2 parallels stay there?
When we get down there, again, we're not making improvements to the north side, so I would envision that those parallels will stay there, and then we'll work around and make the angled parking. And the drawings that I had, like here, this is really kind of meant to show you schematically.
It's just a visual.
We'd still have to go through the actual design. So yes, I would say you are in the ballpark. There's anywhere between 9 and 11 spaces here. I don't know how the striping falls.
So, option 1, was that 4 parallel spots or 5 altogether?
Option 1, we ended up, again, about 7 parallel spots when all is said and done. Again, this doesn't show you the whole length of the street.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Dave, did you have any?
Does anybody from the public have anything?
Yeah.
I have a question. The section that is between the garage door opening, I can see that being the carriage walk and being open and as flat as possible for sight lines. But to the corner, do we need to give up those spaces? Because there's, 3 spaces from, say, 1 space in, or an island that's there, or a bump out that's there at the west end of the lower one, keep that open, but then retain some of the parking spaces?
because you have parallel spaces across the street.
You do.
So you wouldn't have anybody backing out into the traffic there. I'm just trying to see how we can preserve a couple of the spaces. I mean, this is a different design. The north side's going to get changed at some point anyway.
That's certainly something we can look at. It'd be to take the drawing as you see it here for what we'll call the east half of the street, and on the west half, which if there's enough room, you'd have to alter the sidewalk. You have to get the sidewalk up tight against the building in order to fit the parallel spaces in there. We'll have to see if there's enough room to do that. You would lose the landscaping in front of what will become the retail down there.
But see, where I'm going with this is in the retail end of it. I don't think you're going to have plantings out in front of that. I think you're going to have the sidewalk right up to the building face, and then a wall, either glass or brick wall right there. I don't think you're going to have a planted area right in front of that, because the retail is going to want to have it open.
You might have planters and stuff.
Yeah, planter in the corner or something.
And Gary or Laura, you may not know the answers to this. I just heard very, very recently that the Domino's Pizza building, as well as where Furniture Dollies formerly was, is either on the market or going on the market for sale for redevelopment. Have we heard anything about that? What the owner of those buildings is thinking? Is it right now? If there's nothing in those buildings, we don't have to worry about increased parking.
Right.
But have we heard anything? Are they talking to the city about anything yet?
No, we haven't heard anything.
Okay.
We can look at option 3 and then to the west of there, or west of that driveway, certainly see from an engineering standpoint if we can squeeze a couple of parallel spots in there. I don't know that I would recommend it if it's just one spot, because then it becomes kind of an oddball. But if you can fit a couple, it's worth it.
That would be the princess parking for people who are shopping right there.
Well, even if the corner one was was a handicap spot or something that was on the corner.
Well,
it'd be on the hill, but maybe it could be a 10 or 15 minute for somebody.
Right.
Exactly.
Pickup.
Yeah, exactly. That might be a good spot for that.
Princess. That's what it's called.
Whatever.
So we can certainly incorporate that into option 3 from the engineering side.
Right. Okay. Anyone in the public have anything to say?
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Evanson, owner of the bookshop on River Street. And, I wasn't going to say anything, actually. I was here more for the Flag Day thing. But having a small shop where 11 parking spots is, let's just say hypothetically, that's 11 people that aren't going to come to my store on that day. And on a small shop like mine, that's a make or break of a day. So every time, there's just something new that's just picking away at what we originally all were up for when we first started. And now it's just like, 11 more spots. It's just everyone's going to park 3 or 4 blocks away and walk and buy a book. They're not. Will they go to Gaetano's? Probably. Will they go, River's Edge, the bigger bars? They'll go park and come back and, drive over there. But, it just feels like every time I hear something new about this place, it's getting bigger and bigger, and we're sacrificing more and more of what we are willing to, what I thought we would be willing to compromise on. So I guess that's just my opinion. So we'll give them 11 more spots and take 11 spots away from our customers and the people that are going to be coming to River Street. It's very frustrating to me. So.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I just elbowed my wife in the face getting a chair. Hi, I'm James Stickling, and I also own a bookshop in Batavia. To reiterate what my wife says, and she says it, she's way more eloquent than she gives herself credit. But every time we turn, something is happening to the beautiful area on River, and whether we are deeming it relative to growth or not, I can tell you that some of my friends, fellow business owners on River, are extremely concerned, vexed, and in dread over this impending edifice. I know that I personally have been very vocal, and there's been people that have been very vocal on this subject. I choose, of course, to come here and speak to you all because I have a lot of respect for what you folks do, the time you give away from your families, and to come here and do everything that you do for the citizens of Batavia. I have a lot of respect for it. So I make my points respectfully. But yesterday I came here with the intention of doing that as well, and at no point was there, do I remember anybody asking for comments from us as the decision, there was another decision made last night. I also wanted to get here on time, and I thought I got here promptly for this meeting at 7:15 because the website told me that this meeting was occurring at 7:30, which as a business owner myself, if I told people I was going to be closing at 6, but I closed at 5:30, I'd have some angry customers. That being said, I take this kind of mentality and I take this River Street project extremely seriously because I believe that there has been enough concern expressed, legitimate concern by people who have a vested, heartfelt interest in this town, and especially in this property, and especially what this property means to Batavia. River Street is the thoroughfare of the future. There's been a lot of concentration on building up a tower on River, or on Washington, excuse me, without thought to what would happen to people and to River. I believe that there's been, I know that there's a lot of people that are commenting on different social networks. I see it all the time. I've commented, but I do it very rarely. I thought that would be taken into a more drastic consideration, but even just recently I heard that it put out that it is convenient when it's convenient for a narrative. If that is how our concerns, legitimate concerns by the future of this town. I'm not the future, but people like me are the future of this town. We're the future business owners. We could even be future aldermen. But if that is how our input, which is thoroughly thought out with time and consideration to everybody in this town, if that is how it's taken and dismissed as being a convenience of information, I have serious concerns. I know that that is not wholeheartedly across the board, but I am becoming more and more concerned that what is happening with this particular property is more of a carbon copy of the town previous and the town previous to that, instead of acknowledging the identity of the town that we already have. I'm all for growth. I mean, I'm a business owner, for crying out loud. I want people to come to my business, but I can tell you the first thing that I saw about this town when I came to it was the way that downtown looked. And it's not going to look like that anymore. And there's not going to be people down there anymore. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of apartments. You're going to have a lot of empty apartments. You're going to have a lot of empty retail. And you're going to have no parking. So I have serious and grave concerns. Not only, it's not based off my future as a business, but as that avenue as a whole. And so I ask you all respectfully, and seriously, thank you for your time again, like I said. I ask you respectfully to please walk into this and do not let anything get in the way of listening to those who walk these thoroughfares, who hold these thoroughfares very dear, and have an eye for the future resident, which I've only been here 2.5 years, so there's a whole bunch of people like me that would probably be looking to move to Batavia. And if all of a sudden a big thing was going right in the middle of the square, I might have hesitated. But once again, really, thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything you do. And I really love living here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. So, to the back to the decision that's in front of us tonight, the State Street design options. Does anyone have any further questions of Gary or anyone on staff? Laura, anyone? Nope.
Can I just make a quick?
Yes.
And I
don't want to feel like your comments are not heard, okay? I mean, it's incredibly important to us to hear what people have to say. And you know, the thought that this is a kind of an afterthought that we're going to lose 11 spaces, I can tell you we've been trying to think this through. Some of us, we have different opinions on, and this thing has changed. You know, it's changed a lot. But I can tell you that the ultimate goal is to bring people downtown. That is the goal, and it is to get people to walk into your doors. You know, that is absolutely, regardless of how we get there, that's what we want. We want it to be walkable. We want people to get there. We want people to buy lots of books. You know, eat downtown, stay downtown, park downtown. You may not agree with what you see, but we're trying. We really are trying. That's why we were able to have a parking lot just north of there, right on the river, which is huge. So we're trying to do the best we can, but the ultimate goal is not just to put a big stone or cement edifice in the middle of the downtown. We want people living there and going to the bookstore and to the retail that's there. So I just want to address that. I don't want you to walk away thinking, they didn't hear me. So, but thank you for coming down and speaking.
I do feel that I do feel that I am heard in certain regards, yes. And I appreciate you for telling me that. Thank you sincerely.
And James and Lizzie, you know, you're both in my ward, and James, you and I talked offline yesterday, and this is something that, and what I said last night, and I stand by it, is when you are involved in a project like this, and you have been for 4+ years, and you have listened to public comment, not just the people who don't like it, but the people who do like it, and who are not active on Facebook, and who approach you and say, this is a great project, I want to live in this building, etc. You have to weigh both sides of this. And I live a block away from this proposed development. So I, of course, in terms of property value and everything else, have a very vested interest in what goes on that corner. And I still continue to support this. So it's not that I, in the 4th Ward, don't listen to my constituents. I listen to people throughout the town, both for and against. And in my opinion, and I'm 1 vote of 14, this is a move in the right direction for both Batavia and the 4th Ward. So that's just, you know, since Scott opened it up to that, I just wanted to tell you that this is why I vote the way I do, why I continue to vote the way I do, why I've supported this project since its very conception many years ago. And so, yes, it will change. It will change a very small portion of what River Street looks like, because most of this building is set back off River Street. But it will also bring a lot of rooftops and population density to our downtown, which is what we have been talking about for much longer than I've been on the city council. So, Dan?
I can hardly see you over the podium, but I guess
I can see your head, just like your glasses, just this much.
I definitely want to add this. It strikes me, this property we looked at several years ago, we saw a plan that had like a dozen townhomes on it, and it looked pretty. But it wasn't the most useful way to develop this piece of land. If we put, a couple dozen townhomes there, you would have a couple dozen townhomes there. You would have a couple dozen families shopping in your bookstore. So yes, we might be taking away 11 spaces, which are not done lightly, but we're also adding 180 doors going up. I get that, but we made a value judgment. We didn't have to do 180. We talked about doing like 100. And then we made this choice, well, gee, what if we put some public parking in there? How can we maximize the amount of parking and get a lot of people there? So we have people walking and shopping in this small space. And that's how the project evolved. Yes, there have been a lot of bumps along the way and a lot of unexpected things. But when I heard that the retail was gone from Wilson, I was like, that's a non-starter. I'm not interested in this project anymore. But then I really went back and thought, well, why did we do this project in the first place? And I remember we could be doing those 12 or so townhomes. That's not what we're looking for. I'm willing to lose a little bit of retail because by adding these houses, or adding these units and adding this parking, it creates the people who are going to be shopping in the bookstore. And my expectation is why we're creating temporary improvements on the other side of the street is because we fully expect that while I love the Domino's there, it's not going to be there for that much longer. And something else beautiful is going to go up there, and it, like a fuse, is going to start to go north and creep up this street. This is a very valuable street. A lot of amazing things are going to happen on this street. I do believe this is just the beginning. So if you can see that vision, this isn't that bad of a project. It's not. And that's why I continue to support it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the vision. I think that there's incredible opportunity for growth in this town. I mean, this is the first town that I really felt like my home. I've been 41 years. But
come closer to the mic.
Oh, what?
Come closer to the mic.
Sorry, I didn't want to dominate. It's the execution. There is an awareness to the dirt that you plant on. And while you may be looking for maximizing the value, well, what maximizes the value in your town, really? What maximizes the value of any retail space? I mean, the maximum value would be if all of a sudden there was instead of, some of these mom and pop places, maybe it would be more valuable and more, we'd get more value out of it if we let Starbucks move in right next to Limestone. That kind of theory of value, you have to look, and that's why I'd say value. Value, and my thing is words. When you talk about value, it's something that has it's grown into a double meaning. Value is not, my store wasn't even supposed to have value. They're just supposed to be buying books from a big warehouse located all over the country, and evidently everybody's kissing that guy's feet to move him to the other town. But what's value? Value is when I'm selling teenagers classic works of literature because they come and they talk to me about them. That's value. So I understand your point, and it's got to be an incredible thing to have to decide. It's something that I'd like to say I wouldn't want on me, but we'll see what the future holds. But it's more about, I'm telling you, River's Edge is a big thing in this. River's Edge to me, when I talk to them and they're like, what's going on? And they're concerned. I mean, River's Edge, everybody talks about a lot of other things on River and Wilson, but I'm going to tell you, River's Edge has been the thing for a long time now. And the way she runs her business, they are going nowhere if they are treated correctly. If she doesn't have a bunch of empty nesters complaining that the music is too loud because all of a sudden the bearded bluegrass guy hit a couple of 3 chords too hard on a Tuesday.
That's fair, but that said, when you're going to shop for one of these units, you're going to see that bar downstairs. And I hate to call you out here, but when did you open your bookstore?
March. We took the keys December 15th.
How many years after we started talking about this project did you open your bookstore? So that's the marketplace makes these. I'm not trying to be.
I understand that, but also at the same regard, we're talking about future residents. You're looking at one.
I understand.
So, I'm walking in here now, taking this on now, and it's a serious concern because these are the same kind of things that somebody that's 35 and moves here because he just got married, he's going to have some of these same concerns.
But so the marketplace is ultimately going to make these decisions. When I picture the retail space, I didn't picture a Starbucks.
Yeah.
I just pictured the marketplace figuring out what Batavia needs, and it's not 6 Thai restaurants because that failed.
Well, we're down to 3, so I mean,
whatever's supposed to be there is going to be there, and if it's a bookstore, then it's going to be a bookstore. If it's going to be a bookstore that grows out of its space into a larger space somewhere else, then that's what the marketplace is going to decide. I'm interested in what that future looks like. I think that we put a petri dish here, and something good's going to happen. I'm asking you to have faith. And as a group, we came up with this philosophy. We didn't pick the tenants. We didn't pick a lot of this. We picked the philosophy. It's not our job to micromanage this thing. It's our job to send the ship in the right direction. That's all we're here to do.
I would also point out that your store, River's Edge, Shine Yoga, Bar Evolution, Gaetano's, all those places that are on River Street, Wilson Street, tap right around the corner. When people are shopping for one of those apartments, those may be some of the exact reasons they say, hey, you know what? This is the place I want to live because I like books and there's a place right across the street and I can catch some live music. And that's going to actually draw them to those apartments. So it's not going to be, ooh, they're putting up with those businesses. Those businesses are an attractant to those people. That's how this whole thing feeds on itself.
I think you may be right at about 10 to 20% of what you're going to be, who would be living in this place, because what I'm being heard constantly is empty nesters. So we're talking about an age demographic. I am going to wrap up here in a second because I totally sympathize with everybody here. I can see some of you, you've been sitting in meetings and you're tired and it's exhausting and you know.
On nesters. But my son graduates, my youngest graduates from high school this year. I'll be an empty nester in a couple of months. So that kind of living is entirely attractive to me.
I think you have to look at what did empty nester mean a long time ago. What does it mean now? Because as you know, I mentioned to you, my husband and I, this is very attractive to us. We also like bluegrass music. We also like bookstores. So it's not like, as I may have mentioned to you, when my friend moved back from California, she wanted to rent. She did not want to buy a house again, which is a new trend, renting. She looked in Batavia. There was nowhere that was walkable in our downtown to be able to rent. She can afford to be able to rent a 2-bedroom apartment because she's retired, but she can afford it. So where did she go? She moved to Geneva. If we had had a building that would have accommodated her needs, she would have been one of those people that would have rented in that space, who would have liked the music, would have liked the ability to walk to Walgreens and the library and the restaurants in our downtown. But we don't have that type of living arrangements right now. So this building fills a need, and that's been my opinion from the beginning of the project. And so it will cater to, you know, those businesses that are there will be serving a purpose. And we've always talked about having the ability to go downstairs in the building and go to the dry cleaners or do something that's there for the residents. And as we progress up River Street, I mean, the city council has purposely purchased land down River Street to be able to expand that retail and, residential area in high density, because we need rooftops to support business and to put people there, basically, who want to live in Batavia. You know, Lizzie said to me, it's become unaffordable to buy a house, even on the east side of town. You know, the gentrification of Batavia has been happening, so this kind of slows it down in a way, and that it gives people the ability to move in.
Well, yeah, but you see that very point, though, it's becoming harder and harder to buy a house. When you build this, it's going to become even harder. Your property taxes are going to go. I mean, let's just look at it from that point of view. You just, I mean.
Wait, yeah, time out, James.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about this kind of expansion, there's a serious concern about what's going to happen to the property values of these areas.
In terms of?
What's that?
In terms of?
Maybe you guys could have a sidebar after the meeting.
Yeah, I know. And just also, so you know, too, one of the parts of this is, and you know, we're kind of beating a horse here, but one of the things is rental is coming back. That curve is really jumping up in terms of people wanting to rent space as opposed to buying a home. In millennials, that's a big thing with millennials right now. They would rather rent than buy a home. So that's something that's part of this equation that we're looking at. So just so you know, I mean, that's part of the landscape. So, and also, I would prefer Freebird as opposed to empty nesters.
I like that. Can I use that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments for Marty?
I think the part that keeps getting lost, and not to, when you were calling them out about what they moved in for, they were also people who supported what the original plan was. The original plan, where everyone was all on board with that vision, does not exist anymore.
Right.
And the fact that it doesn't exist anymore cannot remain the narrative. We now have competing changes of what the goals are. The goals were to bring people downtown. How it's being done is now fractured and split. The reason for that is because of the reasons that they're saying. They moved and did their investment into having the bookshop downtown because they believed in the overall vision that was going on. That has changed. That change has taken a near unanimous council into a 50-50, look what's going on. And what we're talking about is the drip, drip, drip of changes that we continually, what they're saying and what has been made before, the sacrifices on our end. We are, at a certain point, taking away parking, but adding more people. Watering a plant is a good idea. Oversaturating it is a flood. That's not. That's where we're starting to hear from people that are saying, I was in agreement with this. The majority, I know some people don't believe that it was the majority, but the majority of people in this town did believe in the concept of bringing people downtown, the overall vision. But when it's getting into these details, it's a $40 million project that we have to micromanage because of the very reason we're losing spaces, adding people. It's all about balance, and we're trying to find that balance, and for half of us, it tipped and on the other way. And that's a major problem that it can't just, we were to go from point A to point B. Well, while you were going from point A to point B, the bridge was in great shape. It collapsed on the way. Do you put on the brakes and stop?
Yeah, to go over to Marty's point, thank you, Marty, is that the first meeting where I spoke, I'm not sure how many of you were here until it was at the planning committee. When I first spoke my concerns about this project vocally, I walked in here a complete blank slate thinking that this is great. And then it kept going and going and going and going, and now it's just, it seems like we're just putting rickety sticks on a thing to hold it up. And that's a serious concern, especially when you go from full-on committee to 50-50 with a decider.
Dan?
And so I have concerns.
Dan?
I wasn't knocking the business. I wasn't knocking you in general. I just want to make sure that this came out correctly if I was misinterpreted.
Oh, no, I didn't think that way.
My townhouse backs up to Kane County Forest Preserve land.
Okay.
There's not going to be another townhouse built behind me. If I buy a house next to a cornfield, I should not complain when a house goes up and says, "You wrecked my view. I had this beautiful cornfield behind me. That wasn't the use of this property." All I was getting at was this blank space that has a huge question mark over it is a project that continues to change over time. And all I was getting at was, I appreciate that you've come to River Street. I'm very happy that you're in River Street, and I really hope that you're successful. But that said, as I talked about the marketplace, the risk involved in opening a business at a time when there's a monstrous question mark over what's in the center of this property, that is risk that you bear as a business owner.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, when you talk about risk, I took the biggest risk in the world opening the business I did. So it's got less to do with risk and more, I'm more concerned about where it goes from here as it relates to the town. I roll the dice every day that I open my doors for my business. So when I talk about businesses, I'm talking about the business idea in a whole. The reason why some of those people are in the buildings they're in, they're not just doing it for the marketplace. Right. They're doing it for the kind of marketplace that is present, and there is something that draws there. And when I went down there, I knew what drew me down there. And
you didn't open up on Randall Road where there was plenty of parking. You chose to open up downtown.
Yeah, well, I didn't choose to open up on Randall Road because I've lived on Randall Road 5 times in my life, and I don't need that thoroughfare again.
Fair enough.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sylvia Keppel, 1420 Becker Avenue. I can't really top what they have said. They were very eloquent. What I would like to do is urge you to take a look at the BATV recording and to listen to them again, because I don't think you're really listening and hearing what they're having to say. They're talking of character and what brings people downtown, and you're talking numbers. And they're also talking numbers. The numbers that are in this, what I hear them say is, the character is what draws people downtown. You are going to ruin the character of the downtown. They do not have, the 190 units will not provide enough customers to keep their business afloat. And they will have to depend on people that are drawn to downtown, which is why this parking is important to them. So please go back and listen to what they have to say and really take that into consideration. Thank you.
Marty?
Yeah, I've talked with you plenty when you supported this plan. And it's not about the character of the downtown. It is about the numbers. If it starts to become, and when you start changing those numbers, it changes the look and the character. So, and we've talked about that. You supported having a large building there with an amount of people. It just became too many people, which is the difference. So it'll always be about numbers.
Okay. Anyone else on the council? I guess the final comment is last night the vote was taken and the council continued to be split. The mayor made the deciding vote and the project is moving forward. And we're deciding on tonight which one of the three options we would prefer to direct staff to take in terms of the parking options on the north side of the building.
I'll make the motion that we ask staff to proceed with option 3 with a change to it to try to include several parallel spots along the west end of the south side of State Street.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Okay. I'm still writing it.
Okay.
And that was moved by Wolf and
Yes.
seconded by?
Salvati.
Salvati, thank you. Okay. Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
O'Brien, absent. Callahan?
No.
Meitzler?
No.
Malay, absent. Ewer?
No, wait.
But I abstained
my
since
God,
I wasn't here
sorry,
for the
I
discussion. I'll have to watch.
I didn't see you when you came in. My apologies.
That's all right. I snuck in.
Okay, so are you not
present? Absent. I'm sorry, abstain.
Abstain? Okay. Okay, Saron?
You skipped me.
You were.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go to bed, apparently. Yeah, you were.
Aye. The two brightest shirts in the game.
That's right.
Saron?
No.
McFadden?
Aye.
Rosado?
Aye.
Atack?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Chansett?
Aye.
Okay, 9-3. One abstain.
Okay. Gary, you got what you need?
Got a direction, sure.
Okay, great, thank you. And the next thing, oh, it's not ours, it's city services.
Nope. Next item is the discussion on the change order for the City Hall windows masonry project. Alderman Wolf.
Thank you. This is a change order on, or actually before we even really begin on it, I'll let Gary explain this because I'm sure he has visuals for us on it.
I do, and Lane Allen is here tonight also to be able to answer questions. His first visual is not the best, but I'll start with that one, and I'll start with my memo first. During the design process, we really tried to coordinate the remodeling project and the masonry project because there's both internal components within the building and external components on the exterior of the building that needed to work together. With the remodeling project being put on hold, we're kind of running into coordination issues with respect to a couple of items, and that's why we're here tonight to get your direction on how to proceed with a few things here. So first to this graphic, which is kind of busy and hard to see, but it'll serve the point after I work through it verbally with you. So this is City Hall, and this is the south end. So this is the door which goes out to the plaza. This is Chambers, where we're sitting right now, and to your left is north. So as you go to the left, the main parking lot is out here on the west side, and then out to the east side is the river and the Riverwalk area. And existing today out of the main lobby, it's not really used very often. You probably walk by it every day. I don't know how often you've actually used it, but there is that east entrance door out of the main lobby that goes out to along the Riverwalk there. The proposed remodeling plans had called for that door to be shifted one window bay to the north, and it was going to capture really kind of this whole portion of the lobby for community development. They would have gotten a plotting area, file storage, and another office space back there. So by moving the doorway northward and then creating this as the police lobby, and then the hallway would go back over here to create that east entrance, which was still deemed to be very important that we have the two entrances. So this drawing up here kind of shows the depiction of the east entrance as proposed. There's a doorway with a side light, as well as a transom window over it. If you go out that east entrance today, it's rather kind of nondescript. It is a glass door, but it's not really the fanciest glass door, and it really doesn't say that you're walking into anything important besides the lettering on it. So this door would certainly give the entrance much more importance and probably be more respectful to the fact that it goes out to the east into the Riverwalk there. So there's the door, side light, transom. There's also a concrete stoop and steps and metal railings as well. None of this work right now is going to go forward. The window that's in that bay is just going to remain as is, and we can't put this door in because we're not doing the interior work. So there will be a credit coming back to the masonry and window project for all of this work. As part of the remodeling project, and we have a couple of other exterior doors which are being done as part of the masonry project, but as part of the remodeling project, we're going to be doing work on these west entrances, so the entrance into the lobby area today and the entrance into this area, this secondary lobby out here. And then we also have this doorway here. So I'll walk through these one at a time. This south doorway, as you guys can see, has about 3.5 to 4 feet above it of just fill-in space today. This south doorway is not in the greatest of condition. The bottom of the frame is starting to corrode, especially if you look up along the masonry itself, along the stone. So we're going to have masons on site. We're going to be tuck pointing this building. We're going to be handling all the masonry issues associated with all the windows.
And some of the interior masonry right there.
And yeah, you can come up anytime, Lane. So one of the thoughts was, should we proceed at this time with replacement of this door, knowing what I've told you, that the door itself is kind of going to have to be replaced in the next couple of years anyways, as these other doors are already going to get replaced. And we will have masons on site, and so this would become a new door with the side lights, just like we have today, but we'd also add a transom window above, and then lower the size of this infill panel, or reduce the size of the infill panel. Today we would keep the existing canopy. We're not touching any of the canopies on the west side, but I'll show you in a slide in the future as to what the thought was for those. But this would allow the masons to kind of do this work. This isn't as much masonry work, but when you take the frames out and put the frames back in, you're going to need their work. All right, so these are the future canopies that are designed for the west side of the building, and just a simple canopy like this was also what's proposed for the south side. And that's all that would go over the south door, would be something along that shape. And that carries that archway of the windows throughout the rest of the building. So I just wanted to show you what the canopies, the entrance canopies will generally look like for the three main entrances. But then, oops, let me go right here. On these west doors now, so this door here and the further door to the north, which in the remodeling plans were designated as the City Hall entrance. If you recall, we were going to create a dedicated lobby area for City Hall, so when you came in, you could pay your utility bill, you could get your building permit, you could have a conference with your HOA, you could come into council chambers, you could do all of that in that one space and never really kind of have to leave that space. Or if you went on the other lobby door to the north, you'd be in the police department lobby, and you could do all your police department business up there, and the two would be basically separated. Obviously still an internal connection between the two. Anyways, above these doors are this picture. Today, these just soldier course, rather nondescript brick archways. This is something we would have to bring through HPC. They have not seen this yet, but we wanted to at least get your direction whether we should make that effort. That's kind of our purpose here tonight. And that would be to replace these with a cast stone archway that designates the entranceways as City Hall and police. And this obviously is mason work, and that's why we're bringing it to you now. If you like this concept, these could go up now, even though we're not doing any of the other remodeling work. The canopies would still remain the same, so all the wording on the outside of the canopies still remains the same. And then, while the masons are here, these could get installed above the doors, and basically you'd be taking out the soldier course brick. Again, that would have to go to HPC. So we're seeking your guidance tonight on, we're going to have a credit back to the window and masonry project. That's a fact. That's for that east door. The question is, do you want us to proceed at this time with these other items because the masons are on site, or would you rather just hold off on these other items altogether and bring the masons back at some point in time? So that's kind of the general question.
We have any idea of the cost?
That's where I was going to ask.
We just got this change order over to Schramm, and they're working on it. I don't think we have an answer yet, but I'm sure this is going to be less than the entry that we were planning. So, but I just wanted to reiterate very simply, Lane Allen Peppa Architects, that all of these details came out of looking at how the building was used and how, what Gary made, was very clear on all this, but I think the reason why these items came out of our investigations of the interior design is because it grew out of the ideas of how the building was used, and these are elements of identity, and in the end, or one of the major criteria was the safety of the building users and clarity for the public on the use of the building. So these are very subtle details, but they're very much integrated in how we're planning on using the building, or how it's planned for you to use the building.
If we don't yet have an idea of the cost of what it's going to do to install this, do we know how much of a credit we're looking at by not doing the other?
That was a bid item. Do you remember what that's in the $30,000 some odd dollar range, if I recall?
That's a reasonable question. I don't have that.
They would come back to you as a formal change order, which we just don't have to you tonight. The reason I guess we're here conceptually is because we have to meet the HBC calendars. Yep. So that's why we're here, is to say if we like the concept, we will come back to you with any approvals. But it would allow us to get on to what will become the June 11th HBC meeting.
And we could have it approved even if it doesn't fit the financial numbers.
Exactly,
We could have it approved if we like the idea of this.
Yes.
And have it side by side, and if the numbers work, we can do it.
Yeah.
Because I think like this over here, where this faces the south, that's pretty much, in most people's minds, the face of this building. When they come down here, that's what they're looking at. And that takes all the sun load. I think if they're here, and that's something we can fit in the budget, I'd like to see us fix that, because even though it doesn't get used for meetings much, whenever something happens in here, that door gets used constantly.
I think, Alan, I think you should go through the process of getting it approved, see what it's going to run. I think now's the time to do it. When the tuck pointers are here, we already know that it's going to be difficult to match the tuck pointing, that's something that Lane and Gary and everybody have worked through an awful lot on, and to go and tuck point the whole building now and then not do the repairs that are necessary at the doorways, and then try to do those in 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road and have that stand out like a sore thumb because it doesn't really match and blend in. I don't think that's the right way to go. I understand if we don't have the money, we don't have the money, but I think we should pursue it.
We would come back to you with all the numbers. It's just a calendar thing for timing. And Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if you get the HBC approval, obviously you're not obligated to do the improvements, and the HBC approval will last for a certain period of time that would enable us to still do it.
Mark, did you have your hand?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what you're saying, and I do like that, but I'm kind of concerned that the reason we put everything off was because we didn't know where we were going to be financially, and now if we're swapping out credits, that means we're going to be doing things that we kind of put off, and those things that we are having the original change, this is going to actually end up costing us more because we're doing more things than, because those other things that we're doing the change request for still need to be done at some point. So the original plan, changing some new things in because we have a credit, it's moving the ball a little bit, but I do understand like the timing of it and making sure that it looks right, but.
So if the east entrance is contemplated as part of essentially the remodeling project, which isn't going forward now. I mean, ultimately, in the end, we're not introducing any new improvements, I guess to your point. In the end, between the remodeling plans and the window and masonry plans, there was 10 improvements. We're still doing 10 improvements. We're just taking 2 of the improvements from this column and putting them in this column, and 2 of the improvements from that column and putting them in that column. That's all we're doing.
So that's what I was unclear, because I didn't know if these were later revisions that we're now doing that weren't.
These are part of the remodeling project.
That's what wasn't
not
clear.
part of the windows and masonry project. But then the windows and masonry project, which is that door, we're taking out of that project. So we're just screwing like that.
Okay.
Lucy?
I love the engraving of police in City Hall. I almost think this is a communication issue, because I think there are a lot of people that don't know where the police station is. They're like, well, how do I get in? Where do I go? And I think it's time that we make this clear. So I think it's very nice.
Thank you. Later on, and we'll discuss it with Cal when you would like us to come back, but I'm going to have Lane do a full-blown presentation, because the ultimate building remodel plans call for more exterior signage and relocation of the police sculpture out there, basically to scream at people saying, this is the police entrance, this is the City Hall entrance. Because right now today, if you read our brown canopies, what do they say? Council chambers. And when you come here in a night meeting, you go to the council chambers, what happens?
Yeah.
You can't get in the door. So, I mean, there's some issues there with our building.
And people really don't know what council chamber, that doesn't mean anything to most people.
No.
Or do they care?
Right. So that's what we're trying to correct.
And just to be clear, I do like the cover. I do like the stone carving. I think that does look much better and nicer, especially on this building that we all do appreciate the history of it. My concern is just, we're in a budget crunch year, and if we have a chance to save $30,000 here, maybe that's something we need to consider. I'm happy to see the numbers and then make that value, that decision. So.
Yep, that's up to you guys, sure.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, get us some numbers.
Put these headers into perspective. Let's say that the wall is 1'4". That piece of precast is only 4 inches. So it's really a very subtle change out of the work. So it's kind of nice in that it's the whole wall, the archway's all there. We're just taking out one width of brick and popping this other one in. So it's not overly laborious.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is project status. Laura?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to go over the projects that I went over last night, but I think we had 100% of the people here, so I won't, other than to say June 11th, again, is I sent out the invitation for that being our next strategic planning session, and then I also sent out the survey asking if people would prioritize the items that ended up on our SWOT analysis. If you have any questions about you're struggling with exactly how to put an A, B, or C on those items, give me a call and we'll talk through it.
I thought that email you sent out was interesting.
You sent a cancellation?
Yeah, it got canceled.
The meeting got canceled.
Yeah. You sent out a cancellation today that the strategic planning was canceled, because I was going to ask, why
I went and made plans.
User error. I'm thinking
So
that's what it
really-
was. So we really are having a meeting on June 11th. What I noticed was that not only were all of you listed in 2, you were also listed as, what do you call it? Tentative, or, I can't remember what the verbiage is. Like, you can come if you want to.
Maybe. Optional.
But really, we'd prefer if you would be there. So I'll resend the invitation.
But also the way you explained how the A, B, and C was it?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the way it was, right? Goes, so like if we think the police is obviously very important.
Oh, yeah.
But yet they're doing a great job, then that doesn't mean that they get an A.
Right.
So that I haven't gone through the survey yet, but as I was reading your email, I thought, this is going to be a little difficult.
It's a little
to go through
challenging.
this
It was
because
difficult.
Obviously, that's a very important thing, so it should get an A. But yet, you're already getting good police service, maybe, you think, so you don't get an A. So I'll go through it, see what happens.
The distillation of the process should be that we end up with the things we need to take action on the most over the course of the next 3 years.
We'll get
All right.
there. Anything else?
Nope.
Does anybody have an other?
We are canceling the cow on May 29th, is that correct? We don't have any items to put on that particular agenda, so if everybody's okay.
Wait,
with
when
that.
is that, Nick? Next
28th.
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Why wouldn't we do strategic planning that night?
We could if everybody has the
Well,
survey results back.
Yeah, that's fine.
We were saying the strategic planning we were going to do on the off Mondays.
It's just that the cancellation came, I went and made plans, but, no, I'm kidding.
You're so popular.
Does anybody have another? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Salvati, second by Ewer, all in favor?
Aye.
Question?